I think about this intake upgrade? I like it because it's cool and it gets rid of the grid heater. And I'll say one thing that I've noticed is at low throttle conditions, kind of like we're in now, cruising at 60, I'm going uphill right now, but I'm seeing lower boost levels than I have before. I'm seeing a lot of instances of 0 PSI noted on the Lia meter here, where I've never seen that, and I watch it fairly frequently. I don't know that I've ever seen that this thing can maintain speed at less than 1 PSI indicated. Now, assuming that the turbo pressure, the boost pressure, is calibrated in the same manner that the voltage is, that means that, well, for voltage, 12.999 volts is 12 volts. So potentially 0.999 PSI is 0 PSI. So I don't know if this thing has dropped a PSI or 1,000th of a PSI. But what I do know is I believe I am seeing less boost indicated because of this intake, which would make sense because you have reduced the restriction at the outlet of the place where you are, in the interim of which you are measuring the boost pressure. And boost is strictly a measure of resistance. I can put a turbo on a car and run 309,000 PSI of boost on a stock 350 Chevy if I run it through a small enough orifice. And it will have no issue doing that, as long as I make the pipe strong enough. Boost is an indication of how crappy your inlet to the intake manifold is, or inlet to the head is, I guess. So at this point, like this, we've improved that slightly. I've never seen this much 0 PSI noted on the dash. So, does that matter? Again, from my testing with the Draggy, I think it was worth about 1/10 of a second in the 0 to 60. And in the grand scheme of 0 to 60 with this thing, that's the difference between a 10.1 seconds and 9.99 seconds. That's not very good, but I wasn't trying for maximum efficiency, maximum, boost or anything like that in the launch. I was trying for repeatability, so it's just a number. Doesn't really mean a lot. There is a little bit of improvement with this intake. Is it worth $1,000? No, probably not. Is it worth any fuel economy? At low RPM, kind of cruising like we're doing now, I think it may be worth a couple of tenths of a mile per gallon average. But again, this thing has got the 410 gears. It's always gotten about 17 and a half driving back and forth to work. I got 17.8 on the Lia meter this morning. So, again, it's not much. It's a little bit of improvement. What I will say is it's not worse. You get rid of your grid heater, so you get rid of the potential of having that bolt break and having that nut fall into the damn intake. It's not worse. And it looks cool. It looks a lot neater, than the stock unit. But it's not like you're going to do anything significant doing emissions on stuff at the higher revs and the higher flow rates, regardless of what this thing is capable of, percentage-wise, compared to the other intakes available. And the reason for that is, at higher flow rates through this engine, you are not restricted by the intake or the turbo or the intercooler or anything else. You're restricted by the exhaust, the CAT and the DPF. So no matter what you do to the inlet side of things, you can't fix that unless you go to Mexico and have parts fall off. But that's not legal, and I don't want to do that because why? I don't need any more than this truck is already capable of. I don't need a race truck. Now, at the lower end, like this cruising I'm doing right now, this is where it might make a difference, because your exhaust may not be your most restrictive piece at lower RPM, at lower flow rates. So you may gain a little bit of efficiency in cruising, which I think is kind of interesting because it's counterintuitive, and that's certainly not how they're going to advertise it. Is because you notice they don't advertise power numbers because it's very minimal, if any, gain. What they advertise is flow rate differences at different vacuum levels. And that's how you should do it. But it's not going to matter in the grand scheme of things, truly, when you put this thing on. You're not going to feel this in the seat of your pants. You're probably not going to notice it if you drive normally versus kind of semi-hypermiling, which I sort of do in the mornings. I'm real easy because why am I in a hurry to get to work? But I like it. I think overall, if everybody else's kit in the world has all the right parts and not a broken connector like mine did, yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm glad somebody's doing emissions on tuning because it gives me stuff that I can waste my money on. In any case, that's my opinion. I think that's what we've got going on here. I'm happy with it. I have no issues with the truck. I've thrown no codes. I've put about 150 miles on it so far. It's running great. It's actually quieter at an idle. I don't know how, but it is. It's not as rattly. It's less 12-valvey than it was before. So maybe that was the grid heater. But in any case, it's up to you. Don't expect to notice anything, but it isn't worse. Let's say that. Hope you're all having a good day. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Have a good one.